Joining us on the news at 7 is Freddie Adimefe, one of the NSAS protesters. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7. You've been on the streets at the very front line. Talk to us about where you were today and what happened there.
Today, actually, I wasn't out on the street because we're doing a lot more strategy. I mean, for many of us, the question has been, what do we do going forward? Where do we go from here? The streets are swelling up, people are coming out, but honestly, we're not getting what we want. There are two dimensions to this conversation. The first 5 for 5 demand placed on the table of the federal government has not been addressed. We're still yet to see any arrest or any visible prosecution of the officers who perpetrated the crime. And more videos are surfacing from everywhere across the country. I mean, the atrocities are deep. We don't want apologies. I think we've seen the vice president apologize, but we really want real action. And remember again, this movement is highly decentralized, yet organized. It's not a leaderless movement, but what we have is micro leaders in different sectors. And what can only bring everybody together is the actions of the federal government coming together to address it. More importantly, earlier on last week, I was part of the group that pushed for the 7-point agenda because we felt that this is an opportunity where we wanted to engage on a broader conversation as to what we need to do going forward as a country. A lot of the young people already know Nigeria is not working as it is. Our unemployment rate is a record high. So this protest is it's actually an outcry for a country that we want to work.
All right, Mr. Adimefe. You talked about action on the part of government. We know that some states already have set up judicial panels of inquiry to look into issues of human rights violation by the officers of the now disbanded SARS. What other kinds of actions are we looking at here?
The action is more a conversation and a consultation. There are 4 sides to a protest. There's a protest, there's a negotiation, there's a consolidation, and there's ultimately there'll be a policy. We have not seen any tangible progress in aspect of the conversation. So it's still pretty much an area where we think the federal government can step up. So it's not just about setting up inquiry. We know these things. I mean, we've been in this country for all our lives. We've seen panel of inquiries set up at every turn. And then once you go back to sleep, another panel will be set up to inquire about the inquiry of the panel. And it's just a cycle, and this is not what we want. We don't have the trust of the government. And in fairness to the government, it's not something that started just with them. It deepened with them, but the mistrust is something we are raised with. We've seen years and years of failed promises, of endless looting by the political class, of the waste of human lives and resources. So every young person is legitimately angry, and we have the right to be.
All right, Mr.
Like, it's a tough place, yeah.
Okay, if I may come in here, you spoke about negotiation and the policy. So as it is today, if government says, okay, let's come together and let's negotiate, who would represent the protesters? Because sometime last week we saw that when one of the governors met with the protesters and he talked about opening a fund for families of victims, everyone shouted, we don't have leaders, we don't want leaders. So how exactly would that negotiation process go?
Honestly, I know that there is that challenge, but I think that we know that a kind of conversation and leadership will emerge over time. I think what we're really seeing here is there is now a network of the different groups are meeting at different times. And we're all asking ourselves, what do we do going forward? Because like I said, it's not one voice. I mean, we're all united in our common pain, but different people want different things, but they're all the same when it comes to reform. I think in a week or two, you will see more strategic blueprints as to how the negotiation will go out. Recently, we're talking about setting up a link where we will nominate young people that we will all vote and say, okay, please go and represent us and be part of the conversation. And there is also a conversation we're having about setting up a panel of a mediation panel or a mediation team that will mediate between the young people and the government. And we're quite interestingly, the mediation team have a couple of names already that we've been seeing. And one of them is a popular pastor that the protesters seem to have loved very deeply over the last few weeks. We want to have that mediation panel that we can trust to amplify our voices to the government and also ensure that the government is clear as to what they want to do. So it's the mediation team will come out. And then the young people, again, I think we're still trying to find out the modalities. Is this going to be an online voting process? How do we get to nominate the people? Because quite a lot of people that have helped this campaign are the celebrities and our social media influencers. I mean, they came out and they mobilized their followers, but they might not always be the best people to speak to the issues from a technical point of view, from a policy point of view. So it's really finding that balance between having the technical aptitude to navigate the conversation and yet having the deep feeling and the passion that we all connected with on the field.
It's a good way to end the conversation. Fedi Adimefe is one of those at the front line of the protest. Thank you for joining us on TVC News at 7.
Thanks for having me.